Right, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Qlik Data Flow webinar from Catalyst BI. We've got myself, Lee Connor, and who's technical director of the Catalyst, and Noel.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Principal Pre-Sales Consultant at Catalyst, specializing in Qlik and Snowflake.
Thanks, Noel. So what we're going to cover today is, we'll do a quick overview of who Catalyst are, just in case you guys don't know who we are. We will then go into Qlik Data Flow. What is it? Who's it for? Some example use cases. But more precisely, we'll get into the meat of the session, which is the demo, which Noel will be running. And then finally, we'll do some question and answers. If you do have any questions at all, then please put them into the Zoom banner and utilize the question and answers question process in Zoom, and we'll answer those right at the end. We won't do those on as we go. We'll loop around and do those as the end. So, without further ado, let's get into who Catalyst are. So, just some stats on us. We've been operating in the UK for over 10 years. We've got 65 plus staff. We've got 3 divisions, over 400 customers. Today we're talking in the Catalyst BI division, but we do have an ERP under NetSuite, as well as Cloud, who does bespoke portals. And we've won some awards as well, so some pictures there. Well, with Strapline, so we like to challenge you as organizations and our customers to really unlock your data value, really, to drive your performance, and bring in, essentially, what we like to say is bring people and data together. So we do like to give you real value by bringing you closer to your data in real terms. What do we do? We only do 3 things over in Catalyst BI. We do data management, so ingestion, warehousing, and integration. We do data science right at the end there. So whether it be generative, predictive, so AutoML, etc. I use multiple different technologies there. And we also do data analytics, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So data analytics in the Qlik arena today. So, but we are talking about data flow. So Noel, do you want to take on the journey that I'm sure a lot of clickies on the call have already been through, but can you explain where data flow sits?
Yes, Lee, thank you. So anybody that's been around Qlik for a while will know that you've been able to transform data using Qlik scripts for over 2 decades now. So Qlik's been around for 30 years plus. And you could ingest data from many data sources and process that through and have a full transformation capability. But it was quite a technical process, so it ended up being the preserve of IT, typically, or some skilled business analysts were able to take that data and transform it. In recent years, though, Qlik have been moving towards a more democratized environment where all users should be able to take data out of data sources and process and transform that, regardless of their skill level. So the different environments that people can work in now, depending on their skill level. So, going back several years, maybe even approaching 10 years now, Qlik brought out Data Manager in Qlik Sense. So that was their first effort to be able to ingest data and do that transformation. But it was kind of a one-shot effort in that you had to be able to do all that transformation in one go. Otherwise, you couldn't do it in Data Manager. So Qlik have been expanding that capability over the last couple of years, and they started with the scripting capability, which allows you to build Qlik scripts in an advanced development environment. So it allows you to preview the data as you're going along, which is really useful for those people that kind of started off with just writing code and hitting hope on the run scenario. But now it's much better again with data flow, where you've got a visual, no low code environment, with a canvas that you can drag and drop processes onto to be able to process that data. And then further on in the roadmap, and actually coming later on this year, is table recipe. So it's a reimagination of data manager where you can do single table ingestions and perform step-by-step processes on that to be able to get to more complex transformed outputs. But today is about data flow, so let's have a look and see what that one's about.
Great. Thanks, Noel. Table recipe, by the way, is going to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to see that. But we'll come back with a different webinar for that one once that's up and running and working. But it looks pretty cool. But back to data flows. What are the data flows? Low code. It's a low code drag and drop experience, basically. Noel's going to show you this in a second or two. There are lots of different processors, but it doesn't stop that pro code option. So that ability to actually get hold of that script. So you guys who are maybe used to generating that script, you still want to be able to see what it's doing, and then either use this as an accelerator or actually get involved with um, with the the script itself. It allows you to data preview, so it allows you to show that. And again, Noel's going to show you that as well. It is part of the cloud analytics platform. So all of the stuff that you would expect, scheduling, lineage, integration with automation to fire them off, etc. And having an overall activity center, so an admin view in essence of that, all comes as part of data flow and as we see the Qlik Cloud Analytics platform extend and expand, we're seeing this very much point and click approach. So which is fantastic. Making it simpler to ingest data, and what we'll also show you today as well is this how you're storing these the output in multiple different formats. So these are just a few. You've got QBD, CSV, Parquet, and text as well. So but in essence, I think that's kind of what data flow is. But no, what kind of use cases would you be looking for? When would you use this? Can we give a few examples?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So we're seeing a really good uptake among some of our customers, not just within the technical area, but across different areas of the business that because it is very visual and quite intuitive looking, people just look at the quite complex data flows and just intuitively grasp what the process is that it's trying to achieve. So because it's doing step-by-step actions, it's easy to follow what's happening. And that means that it opens up that capability to the likes of business analysts, people um, trying to understand the business better. Maybe IT and BI have traditionally been a bottleneck for them, and they just want to prototype some data and be able to do a bit of ad hoc analysis. So that opens that capability for them. Similarly, with finance, they like to grind data, but actually, if you're using enterprise volumes of data in Excel, which they like to do, then you can get massive slowdown and spend a lot of time just watching spinning wheels. So being able to build those data transformations and use the horsepower of Qlik Cloud kind of opens up additional capabilities to those kind of those kind of teams. Marketing analysts, similarly trying to build campaigns and understand, where data is landing. They're typically working with large data sets and need to perform some quite complex segmentation or aggregation of data. And then actually the use case that we're going to examine more deeply today around data science. So data scientists typically would, in our experience, have a bit of coding knowledge, but it's unlikely to be in Qlik. That maybe they're working in Python or R or Spark or, one of those other languages that, massive libraries around statistical analysis, but actually the data that they want to consume comes from the ERP system, so it might be in Qlik, as already. So they know the processes that they want to achieve, they just don't know the functions and languages. So it really helps them to be able to do the data processing they want to do without necessarily having to go away and learn another language on top of what they already know.
No, what about your kind of your clickies already who are massively into ClickScript? They've got that's what that's what they do as their day job. This is good for the people who maybe don't know ClickScript or I don't want to know ClickScript or just be faster. But what about the clickies who've already got that kind of development experience of 10 years plus, like yourself, who would just naturally open up a ClickScript? How does Dataflow help them?
Yeah, Lee, it's a good question actually, and I think we're still learning a little bit about this. But having now used this since it landed in February this year, I think I'm tending now to migrate towards this is my go-to, and then I'll do
Mm,
scripting when required. And the reason for that is it is generally a little bit quicker to write script if you have years and years of scripting experience. But the maintenance then, when you come back to it and trying to figure out what it's doing, the maintenance in data flows is much easier to be able to go back and just immediately grasp what the flow is. But also, if you're working in a mixed experience environment, and you want other people to contribute to what you're doing, in a group development environment, then data flows, I'd hesitate to call it the lowest common denominator. It's not that. But what it is, it's an achievable level for people that are still on their learning journey. So you can have people contributing, to quite complex flows, um, still while they're still learning ClickScript along the way. So
mm,
I
okay.
think there's definitely a use case in there, and they are exportable and configurable as well. So you can template these things, fire it out as a template, and then bring it back in and
Super.
configure. So obviously, those who've worked with Catalyst in the Click space over the years will know we have a methodology, and we're currently looking at the possibility of converting the methodology to work either with data flows or as a hybrid along the way. So it's definitely not just for kind of data literate but not coding people. It's a tool for all levels, I would say.
Cool. Nice one. Thanks, Noel.
So we talked about some of the use cases, who might use it. So it's just a couple of examples. If you're prepping data for machine learning, so obviously Qlik Cloud comes with Qlik Predict as part of that platform. So it's just a seamless capability to ingest that ERP data, put it through the kind of data engineering and feature engineering that you'd need to feed into to Qlik Predict, and then because you're already in the platform seamlessly, you can begin your experiments, and then when you want to do that iterative development and try finesse your features, for example, you're just in the one platform. You're never having to shift data out into other platforms. So really really good use case there. And it's a great learning tool as well because it's giving you a preview of the script that it's writing. You can kind of pick up some tips along the way about what functions to use. Converting drop downs into this is the transformation I want to achieve, and then you can look at the script to see what function is that generating. So a couple of really powerful use cases there. And of course, you're not just tied into Qlik either. So as much as you can write out QVDs to consume downstream into analytics or machine learning, you can write out to Parquets, in a cloud data storage. So you can use it as just a visual data preparation tool and then export that data out, in Parquet format, ready to ingest into a third-party tool. And when I say export out, obviously I mean it can be an automated and scheduled thing as well. So you have moving away from that scenario that you have to then download data and handball it across into another system. You can set all this up as automated.
But we're not just confined to the QVD space. I think that's the big takeaway.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm quite keen to see this, Noel. Can we get a
Yeah.
demo? Oh, here we go. This is next. Excellent.
Here we go. So I've already mentioned the demo scenario that we're going to look at. So we're going to do something, preparing some data for data science. And in this scenario, I want to predict my total lifetime value for new customers. So maybe we're trying to allocate some marketing spend, trying to look at regions for account managers and understand if new customers are in that are likely to grow at a fast pace and therefore require a dedicated account manager, or if they're going to a more of a customer success team. So I'm going to go through a process where we get that ERP data, we bring it in. We realize quickly that it's missing some features, so we need to fork in new data from other systems. I'm walking through some quite complex data transformation operations. And then because we're going to use the output for machine learning, we want to then split that data so that we've got that 80-20 split between training data and test data. And we can do all of that in data flows. So that's going to be the demo that I'm showing in a minute. But actually, I just want to start maybe one step lower down in the complexity than that and just have a look at data flows as a conceptual thing. So I'm just here in Qlik Cloud. I'm in any any shared space or in my personal space. And I've got the option here to create a data flow. So here's what here's what I'm creating now. So I'm creating a data flow. I'm not going to open it to edit yet, but so I've created a data flow. So it's got this unique icon there to indicate that it is a data flow. But just before I open that to edit, I just wanted to show, it is embedded. It's a fully featured first-class citizen in Qlik Cloud environment, which means it benefits from all the lineage. It's got that shared space, managed space relationship between, when you publish dev into live, you can convert it into a script object. So once you finish using that, so it's got all the things you'd expect, including scheduling, adding to collections, etc., etc. So all the things that you'd expect to see with an application are available as part of the data flow. So let's go and have a look at the edit screen. So I'm going to come back to the overview in a couple of minutes, but let's just have a look into the editor here. So we can see here we've got the canvas. It's drag and drop canvas here between my assets over here on the left-hand side, starting with what data do I want to pull in. And as you see frequently in lots of Qlik object types, you've got some wizards to help you get started. So you can either browse the data that exists in your system or go out to databases and grab tables directly from there and ingest them in. I'm going to start with a data set here, so I can drag in an object and it's saying what data do you want? So I'm going to pick my customer data. So click next. Gives me an option here to pick which fields I want to bring in. So any that I know that I'm not going to need, I can simplify my process downstream by just being able to get rid of those and bring that data in. So 2 clicks and my data flow is already started. I mentioned that capability to preview data. So every step along the way, you can click on preview data and it'll show you what is that processor going to deliver. So we can see here which fields we've got here. So moving on to the processors, we've got, as Lee mentioned earlier, so we've got over 20 different processors. A lot of them are single function, so they've got one job. So aggregate, for example, as you'd imagine, it's going to sum a value together by the listed set of dimensions. But some of them have got more than one function. So the strings one, for example, is a great kind of example of that, where there's multiple functions available all within the same object. So as an example, we can do things like uppercase or match patterns, even regex or do substrings and these kind of things within that. So I'm just going to convert a field to uppercase. And to be honest, most of the blocks, this is as complex as it gets, is picking what you want to do to it and what field you want to do it to. Actually, let me just pick the company name instead there. Click apply. And then straight away you can preview, make sure I've got the right processor selected. But we can see now the company name is uppercase and we're off and running. So it then just becomes a case of layering up the set of processes that you want to apply to your data. So as an example now, I want to apply a filter because what I want to do is start to do some data cleansing in here. So maybe my company name, I've got some blank records in there. So what I could do is start to look at where the length of the company name is 0. We want to exclude those. So we'll do it straight away. Again, no coding in that. I'm just picking some configuration, and any records with blank company names are excluded from that flow now. We might want to join additional data in. So we can use the join operator here. So basically then obviously we need to join some additional data. So go back to our data sources, pick in a new data source. Back to our wizard, what are we trying to join in here? Well, I think I want to join in my sales rep, which are in the employees table. So that's an example. One that we can do there. I've got that same possibility to reduce the number of fields I'm loading if I'm not using. And then actually, one of the not more complex features, but one that you would use frequently within building data sets and doing the data transformation is to join tables together. And you can see here we've got all the different join types available to us. So I only want to keep ones where we're represented in both sides of the join. And then it just becomes a simpler case as which field do you want in table 1 and which field do you want to join it to in table 2. Click apply and we're off. So straight away within a couple of minutes there, we've been able to take in some customer data, do some simple transformations on it, filter out some bad quality data, merge in some other values from additional tables. And then actually the final piece of the puzzle there is what do we want to do with it. So we can store it out to cloud storage, for example, as a Parquet, or we can keep it within the platform as an output here. So I just want to join that output here. My data file is going to be, where do I want to put it, which space? Let's call it output. We can choose QVD, Parquet, text or CSV. We can rename all of these along the way so that it, instead of it being join 1, join 2, filter 1, filter 2, we can give full descriptions to each of those. We'll just click apply there. And then before we've finished there, we can just do a final preview and check if it is the data that we wanted. So actually I did an inner join here. Let me change that to a left outer join because that's an inner join. But, so allowing us to be able to look at that output before we actually finish the job and just then go back and make any corrections that we want to do is a great capability. If we want as well, we can look at the script. So down here, we can see the script for this particular process. And if I wanted to look at a different process script, I can see what this filter is doing. So those people that have got any Qlik knowledge will, will recognize that we've applied a length function to the company name where it's greater than 0. So very much creating that script on the fly. And if we want to see the whole thing, the whole data flow from start to finish as a script, we've got that possibility within the preview script object to be able to see that. And see, we've only got 4 steps there, but we've got 77 lines of code already. So when you get into a more real life scenario, you can see how you're going to end up with hundreds of lines of code. And it can be very difficult then to trace through exactly what's going on. So let's just have a look at one that I prepared earlier. So this is, Blue Peter style. We've got something that's got a little bit more meat on the bones of it. You can see here over on the left-hand side, we've got our data input. So we've got our ERP data coming through. We want to predict the lifetime value for a customer. So we're going to look at our historical sales for customers and break down some customer features and we also want to do it by product category. So we want to do it by customer type and how much we're going to do in dairy and beverages and the other product categories, beverages, condiments, etc. So those are the kind of predictions that we want to make. So we're just using some of these processes to join all those tables together. We're selecting along the way which fields are relevant for us to do that analysis. There's a couple of processes, sorry, that are pro code if you want to use them. So one of those is the calculate total sales. And if we look at the properties on that, you'll see we've got fundamentally it's an expression editor as you would find in any Qlik chart object. So or indeed in Qlik scripts, you can go and build those. There's an editor to help that's got all the functions, and aggregation types behind that. So you can use that as a drag and drop or click and point scenario. The other pro code object I'll show in a moment, but what we've done here then is pull in some external data. So actually, maybe we scrape some data from a CRM system, or we've gone to LinkedIn and grabbed things, indicative attributes about the customer. So the size in terms of number of employees and sales, how many different people we interact with at that company and how many departments, all things that part of my hypothesis about how how much revenue we might generate with that customer over time. So we needed to merge that data in so you can see we've brought that in as a separate flow, and at the right stage, we've then joined that in to our sales data. And having done that, we can then aggregate. And I think what's really powerful about this is because every processor is doing one thing, it makes it really easy to follow all the way from start to finish and see where am I at? What do I expect the data to look like at this stage? Does it make sense? And what's the next step after that? So that means that we can share, the more complex coding can be done by the kind of more experienced Qlik developers, but we can still get value from people with different levels of ability in there. So the other pro code object here, we've got kind of a get out of jail free card here with the Qlik scripts where we can actually open an object that allows you to just type in your own script here. And this is kind of an open object that allows you to do multiple steps in the process. So you can build temporary tables, you can I haven't tried building subroutines, but actually I don't know if there's any reason that wouldn't work potentially. Taking your input table from the previous processor, processing it through. And what I'm doing here is I'm just doing a mod over that previous data set to work out. I'm going to take 80% into my training block and then 20% into my output block. And then finally, we can store those out into the platform as the data type that we want to do. And again, we've got that preview scripts object, so it quickly becomes a long and complex script that can be difficult to read. But we can very simply see what is that actually doing.
I think the big takeaway on that one, Noel, is that when I'm looking at script and I've picked up from somebody else, it's quite difficult. You have to scroll down it all. You have to maybe go up and down it a couple of times. I think looking at this straight away, I can see what my inputs are, what my outputs are, and I can see the logic that someone has used. So from a handover from one developer to another, and I wouldn't even call this a developer function really, but if I was handing this over to somebody else, it's super easy, isn't it? It's obvious. I don't even need to document this. It's the only reason that you would need to document this would be why you wanting this data in the first place. So yeah, I think using this and seeing it, I think it's a major step up. But that advantage of just actually still being able to get to your script and preview it as a Qlik developer who knows Qlik script, this is just just speeds it everything up, doesn't it? No, but maintenance wise, I see this as the big benefit is maintenance of you don't need to document your script and put it over multiple pages, etc.
Absolutely. I've had multiple customers look at this as part of a demo and say, I just know what's going on immediately
Mm,
looking at that.
yeah,
It just makes sense. And I could
it
pick.
just makes sense. Yeah.
So the other great thing here is that the management console for each script. So we're seeing this both in the scripts object and now in the data flow, where you can actually get a summarized view of what's going on in there. So we can see all the data sets that have been ingested into the data flow, which is really useful, and a bit of data information about those. We can see the outputs as well, which is really useful. But what's even better there is we've got that full lineage capability, so we can look at the output. So anybody that wants to then go and use that, if we publish that into the catalog for other people to consume, we can see what fields got created, how it got generated. So we can see the data flow that pulled in that CRM data from a file format, but everything else came through a data movement gateway. We can trace that all the way back to the database. So it's great to have that capability and understand, the full provenance of that data and is it the right data? And the other stuff that we get as the benefit of the catalog around some of the data quality piece as well, and understand
Mm.
before we load it into the data flow, is it a good quality data set to use? So yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just to summarize on that then, so what we've been able to do there is use data flows to pull in ERP data. We can go direct to database or load in data from cloud storage or within Qlik Cloud itself. We forked in new data because we needed to enrich the ERP data with some CRM data. We did a bit of filtering. We did some joining. We did calculations, and we did a bit of pro code along the way to enrich that data. And then as an output, we needed to split that data into two separate data sets. So we outputted 80% so that we could use it as a trainer model and 20% to test a model. And it outputted something like 200 lines of code if you wanted to write it manually. But it only takes half an hour or so to build within data flow.
Thanks, Noel. That was fantastic to see. If you've got any questions, please put them in. We've got a few questions already. So, um, one of the questions is, how many floor could I have? So how many floors can you create, Noel?
Yeah, there's no limit. So they're just seen as class objects. So the constriction is if you have in the user base license, if you have a professional license, you can build as many as you wish. In the capacity license, everybody has that capacity, so it's more about roles and capabilities about within the security model that your company has deployed, whether they have that create data capability role within the space. But yeah, you can build as many of these as you
As
want.
many as you want. Yeah. Okay. We've got another one. They're loving the tool. They've already played with it, but they're slightly concerned that will encourage data silos when you're trying to centralize your data. How can we ensure that that doesn't happen? What techniques or thought processes have we got? I think this is the standard conversation about democratizing the technology stack, isn't it? Of if you give everybody the ability to ingest data, how do you control that? Have you got any thoughts on that one? No, and I've got a couple myself. Do you want to answer that, or should I?
Well, I'll let you take first stab. Let me formulate what you say.
Yeah, and I think the answer is although data, the data flow allows that easy ingestion of data. I think it doesn't really change the way you need to manage your underlying data catalog. So you still need the structure, the processing of bringing your data in a good sound way. I think what we saw this morning was Noel dragging that data in very quickly, landing the data, and that could be just purely in your personal location, and that's absolutely fine. Where you would then want to publish that out for general consumption and put it into the public catalog, that's where you still need a process, you still need a way to control that data, and that goes back right the way back to creating your, whether it be warehousing or source QBDs and old school Qlik. You need a way of controlling that and having an authorization way. So you need a way to publish those into a trusted stream or space that people can consume and know that they can trust that data.
Yeah,
Um,
just to add on, just to reinforce that as well. As a first class citizen, this inherits all of the roles and security that you've built in Qlik Cloud. So actually that list of data connections that you can choose to load data into your data flow is the same set of connections that you've got access to through any other type of object. So you can absolutely lock that down to these are my governed, curated sets of input data. Nobody can, we're not going to expose any other data sets outside that. And you can even lock down people being able to bring in their own data through uploads. So you can say you're only working with this particular sandpit of data. And similarly with the outputs as well, you can absolutely lock down so that they can create data, but they can only put it into, as an example, you give them two options, which is their personal space or for review space, that kind of thing, and make sure that it goes through that gatekeeping process. So you're not just going to expand, and kind of explode almost the number of different data sets that are available in your enterprise ready data store.
yeah, it
You
gets
can ask
messy pretty
people
quick then.
to build, but then review and gatekeep.
Absolutely. And then one final question is there a conversion tool which takes the script into a a data flow? I think the answer is not yet. I think that's asking possibly a little bit too much, but never say never. There might be. I would love to see it if we could go the other way from the script into data flow. But we shall see. We shall see. Brilliant. Okay, that's all your questions. If there's any questions, then please do reach out. The LinkedIn barcodes are there. Please reach out and email addresses. So please LinkedIn us, follow us for more webinars of this nature. Outside of Qlik as well, we do lots of different technology stacks as well, myself and Noel. Any questions, please reach out directly. And thank you all for your time today. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.